mystery and horror, the air itself is filled with monsters.
Children of the night, what music they make. It's alive! It's alive!
Well, hello, all you monster fiends, and thank you for joining us for another deep dive, factoid-filled episode exploring Hollywood's most famous monsters. I am your mistress of ceremonies, Sam, and I am joined, as always, by Dan from Bleed and Marvelous. Say hello, Dan.
Witches in days gone by were roasted like my Vienna sausage. I can't keep a straight face while saying that. Do you know why? Hiya! That was a proper dirty laugh I did then. Well,
Oh, you kept that one in.
that's a quote from this movie. I take no responsibility for that.
Wowza. Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Monsters of North podcast. I don't know if you can actually, if nobody was to tell you what movie we were doing this week, could you guess from that?
Some meat-based thing, I would say. Some sort of...
Probably not in the horror genre. Yeah, today.
Maybe some sort of snuff film.
Maybe.
Oh.
Probably. Yeah, this week is, I can't believe it's actually probably taken this long to do this movie, given that I absolutely love it. I love this genre of horror. But we're doing the Blair Witch Project.
Hang on. Shake the camera.
Check it about. Found footage 10. So, I'll do the disclaimer and the intro, and then we're going to crack into the 7 pages of information that I have on this movie. Sure. Everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from today's episode, please come and join us on our socials, or you can join us in the comment section where we can have an open discussion. But what we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong, because we can all agree to disagree in fandom. So let's keep it fun, keep it kind, and keep the toxic behavior out of a nerdism.
Don't be a dick.
Just don't do it. Do you know, my laptop reminds me, don't be a dickosaurus.
That too.
Yeah, literally with a penis-shaped dinosaur.
Why not?
Great sticker. Right. The Blair Witch Project is the 1999 found footage horror written and directed and edited by Daniel Merrick and Eduardo Sanchez. Love saying his name. Heather Donahue, Michael C. Williams, and Joshua Leonard star in one of the most successful independent movies of all time. In October of 1994, 3 student filmmakers disappeared in the woods near Burkittsville, Maryland, while shooting a documentary. A year later, their footage was found. And tonight, Monsters of North brings you the Blair Witch Project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that is actually a tagline.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I can't not use it because it is the opening of this movie. And what a time. What a time to be alive when this movie came out. And we were, Dan.
Yes, I know. I was 19 when it was released in the cinema.
I was 16.
The thing about this film for me, watching it with today's eyes, you're a jaded old fucking horror watcher and you're just like, oh, this is awful. Oh, woo, this is terrible. But then when you sit back and think, actually, no, it's not. It is the founding movie of which created an entire genre based off the back of 2 loony directors / writers that thought it would be amusing to abandon 3 kids in the woods and only give them a bit of paper every now and again to tell them what they're doing.
Yeah.
And film the whole thing. Well, get them to film each other for the whole thing. And then feed them less food and do you know what I mean? Just make
really
it worse,
really
worse.
Torment them. This I love this movie. Probably more nostalgia than anything else. I remember going to see it in the cinema. Um, I remember the lead up to it. I remember all the hype around it. I remember the website that was created for it, the posters and everything. Like this was a totally different period of horror that I'd never experienced before. So
Mm.
I was very much in it. I watched it today and I get what people are saying. Like Ant doesn't think this is good at all. And I get what they're saying. But when you read about the background of all of this, a lot of work went into this. A lot of work. Careers were broken. People were broken because of this. One person though absolutely thrived because of this. And it's the one person I didn't think. When I think of this film, I think Heather Donahue, you did great in life. There's something about you. You just went on and did great things. She didn't.
No.
She really didn't, and we will get
Oh,
into that.
it's not that she didn't. She just chose
No,
a complete different path that you would never even guess in a million
no.
years what she went into. And it's just like, eh?
And she suffered. She suffered a lot, like to the point of having to change her name legally.
Yeah.
But yeah, but the one who really came out of it, shiny boots and everything, was Joshua Leonard. Because I found out who he's married to today, and I saw his filmography, and I was like, "Fuck me, you've worked, friend. You've worked." Um, he's married to Alison Pill. The best way I'd said it, Scott Pilgrim, because I had to find somebody that Anth would know would have seen her in Scott Pilgrim versus the World,
Right.
the female drummer.
Right.
She's in American Horror Story Cult.
Yeah. I think I know. Yes.
You'll know my face straight away. She's um if
Yeah.
you're a fan
Yeah.
like I am,
She was the wife, wasn't she?
yeah.
Yeah.
Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen. I went through a Megan Fox era. What can I say? She's in that. Yeah, she married. He did really well, but there's a lot of people who didn't. But the whole thing, this whole production is wild because Dan's right. This is two university friends who literally got sick of seeing paranormal investigating shows and thought they could do better.
And it's the fact that they were also, when you look into their background, there was some marketing experience
Hmm.
somewhere in there. And I don't know whether it was family members, I don't know whether it was them specifically. I didn't really get time to deep dive into that side of things, but the marketing that they did on this was unlike any other movie marketing campaign ever thought of at the time.
Yeah,
This is what separated this film to be as successful as it was from any other movie that was just released at like a film festival.
yeah.
I mean, this movie, when you look at the budget versus box office, the budget was 60K in 99 and it made 248 million. So it worked out that for every dollar they spent on the film, they earned, I think it was $10,931 back because of the amount.
That's a lot of green right there.
Yeah, so basically in today's money, the movie itself would have cost 114,000 to make. That's it. And the reason why they saved money is because they returned a lot of the cameras back to the shops. They got refunds after they used them.
Amazing.
Um, the it was mainly the editing that cost the money
Yeah,
because the woods cost nothing, you know. And then hiring the odd person, getting them to sign releases and paying them a couple of quid here, there. They really scrimped and scraped. But by today's money, the box office turns out to be 474 million. So almost half a billion, no, nearly, almost halfway to $1 billion.
for a found footage
Found
film.
footage film by
It's
today's money,
crazy.
474 million.
That's crazy. I said the wrong word. They weren't sick of seeing paranormal investigating shows. They were inspired by them. They were actually finding these paranormal shows more scary than horror at the time.
Mm.
I get that. I do understand that
Yeah, I
because
think
the hype in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think. We were just discussing this before we came on. I think Most Haunted was probably out quite a lot. I don't know how prevalent Most Haunted was in the US.
I
Uh,
don't, I don't know, but here in the UK, it was
it was our Ghost Adventures, wasn't it? You know,
it
except
was.
we had a Blue Peter presenter instead of a Zach Bagans.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't know what's worse, to be fair. But yeah, this like it was huge because I always remember because they would have events on like Easter bank holiday. Like we have in the UK quite a few. I say quite a few. We have a few bank holidays that are spread out throughout the year, and whenever these bank holidays fell, Most Haunted would do a special,
yeah,
and that became like my family's like we gotta whatever it is we're doing during the day, we gotta be settled down, sitting watching Most Haunted for these specials. I always remember that. Good times. It was when it was entertaining. You
yeah,
didn't just when with Most Haunted in the beginning, it wasn't just a case of like let's go and find it. You got history lessons as well, and especially about some of the oldest places in the UK.
yeah. I mean, you've got to think some of these places they visited, and sorry to, I know we've got a lot of American followers when I say this, but
Mm,
some of the places these guys visited predate
yeah,
civilized the US as a country. You know, we in the sense of as we know it.
yeah,
You know, we've got pubs older than the US of A was actually a country for, you know, not to take away from the natives, but I mean, you know what I'm trying to say, was an established
yeah,
country. Um, and they go to these places and there's like, oh, Sam says there's a fucking woman over there and she's got like this fucking white thing on and she's wandering around in the woods. What's that, Sam? What's that? Oh, Sam says Mary loves death. Sam says Mary loves death. And then you had to put up with Derek Acora and his nonsense. And then you had David, who was the very camp guy, wasn't it? And then he was hilarious. I loved him. I love David more than I love.
How are you going on with the conversation after what you've just done there? You're
Oh,
fucking
we're gonna have letters of complaint about how bad my Scouse accent was.
oh fuck, that was so
So,
honestly. My insides are shaking. I'm laughing that much. Oh, anyone outside of the UK might not know. Dan's just done probably one of the best impressions I've ever heard of a psychic medium called Derek Acora, who was caught out by his team for being a liar. He's dead now.
yeah, never mind.
Oh, never mind.
Never mind. He can talk to himself now, can't he?
Will
Fucking hell.
he be? Whose spirit guide is he? Because she wasn't just using Sam as a convenient name, given that it's mine. His spirit guide was called
Yeah.
Sam.
What's that, Sam?
It's
And he'd
the
always look up
face.
in the sky like he was
Yeah,
just,
like who are you talking? Where? How tall is Sam?
does he float? Answer the question, man. He's, you know, oh, just honestly.
Oh God.
It was when he
Oh
got possessed every other week as
yeah.
well. That's like when it was later on down the seasons
Snorted.
when when you get past like I think you were in like season 11 or 12 at this point, and Derek was getting carried off by like the burly members of the because
Oh,
he was
when he was.
consistently getting possessed by these.
Oh, that's right.
He was putting stupid faces and doing these stupid things, and everybody was like, and you could see that Yvette had had enough.
Yeah, the contempt in her face was like, "Get him off." We're really gonna stitch this guy up right now. That was Most
Oh,
Haunted. Oh God, that was so funny. Oh, Blair Witch. Where are?
the paranormal influence. So basically.
Yeah,
You've got to remember when this came out, it was 99. So we're looking at Windows at its most interesting. You're coming off the back of
yeah.
Windows 95 and you're in Windows 99. Apple wasn't really a thing unless you had megabucks. So everybody was
Mm,
working on Microsoft at this point because Windows was what you had to deal with. So you can imagine when a random website a year before the movie comes out
mm.
pops up on the internet asking, "Have you seen these lost people last seen in the woods in Burkittsville?"
It actually was just the poster, wasn't it? And it had like, for if you've got any information, please call.
All this
There was
number.
nothing. There was nothing like attached to it. There was no like menu or anything like
It was like a
that.
web
Literally,
page,
just
wasn't
uh
it?
huh, uh huh. I always remember that because I always remember the West Memphis 3 website being a very similar imagery. Like it must be just the best websites that they could get at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. We had a family computer
Yeah, same.
that had AOL dial-up.
Yep.
Are we? So if I really wanted to go on the internet properly, it would be at college. I was going to check to see if anything had changed on this website. Honestly, I was so drawn in by this marketing. Like, again, it was something in horror we'd never seen before. And at the time, it was very much, is this a movie? Is this real?
Well, that was the thing, because this started a year before the movie premiered um in actual cinemas. We're not talking about when it did the film festivals.
Mhm.
They weren't allowed to come and watch the movies.
Mm-mm.
They said to the three guys, we don't want you at the premiere. We don't want you at the any of the film festivals, because we want to maintain this illusion that it's
Yeah,
as real as it can be.
yeah,
So, I mean, in one way, I feel like they got a bum rap, but in another, I don't think they did, because only last year or the year before, all of them bar Josh, Eduardo Sanchez, Heather, and Mike both did Monopoly. They did For the Love of Horror, and I actually watched the interview before I did this. It's now on YouTube, and I was watching the interview, and it was really, really interesting, some of the things they were saying about their audition process and how they got cast and things like that, and how Heather's mum was getting
oh
sympathy.
yeah, I've heard
Like, she
that.
was, people genuinely thought I was dead. My family were calling other family members, and like they were having meltdowns about it because they were seeing all these missing posters. And because when they did the film festivals, they did the same idea with the marketing. They literally fly posted all these missing posters
Yeah,
around the area, so people would see it but not really take it in. And then when they saw the film, it would be like,
then
I've seen
oh
about this, I know
yeah,
about this. It very, very clever in the sense of like product placement, where it's subtle.
yeah,
You
but
don't know it's there, but you then think, oh, I want a Coke because they're drinking a Coke. It's like, it was very like suggestion based, which I thought was really clever.
and you're coming to your main target audience because I am incredibly suggestive. If you smoking was a big one when I used to smoke. If I saw anyone smoking on television, that was it. I was like chaining it because then it'd be a different scene and some bugger else would be terrible for it. Um, you talk about the full of horror. We've actually got well, kind of a joint funny story, but I don't know if I ever told you it. When we were talking at your stall,
Mhm.
the year they were there, and I was handing you all my shit to keep.
That was when I was in the corner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Heather Donahue walked behind us, like literally walked behind me, looking at your stall, and walked into Paul, and then just walked off. But me and you were too
Down
busy
there.
talking that didn't even notice that she literally, there's me, came up behind and walked right in front of Paul and walked past his stall.
To be honest with you, I wouldn't have recognized her, because I think I've seen this film total of 3 times, and Tuesday was the third time I've watched it. I saw it
Oh,
once in the cinema. I've seen it once when I bought it on VHS or DVD, and then I've seen it like once to catch up. But I've seen excerpts from it all
oh
over
yeah,
YouTube, all over every countdown you can possibly think
because
of, all over every
it's always
factoid
there.
thing.
Yeah, it's always there. I've seen this film far many times than what I probably should have. And Boot Shadows used to be obsessed with that back in the day.
That was the part 2, wasn't it?
It has
Yeah,
nothing to do with this one.
and it's not a found footage either.
No, it was
So
an
I was
actual movie. Yeah, it's not bad. Like it was all right, but again, I was obsessed with it. Back in the day, I was going to say something I've totally forgotten. What were we just talking about? What were we just talking about?
For the Love of Horror.
Oh no, you said about you wouldn't recognize Heather Donahue. She's in Always Sunny.
Mm.
She's Charlie's in one of the first ever episodes. Charlie gets a kid who he thinks is his. The kid's mom is Heather Donahue.
Hmm.
And it took me ages. I was like, why do I know that face? Like, I And then I had to, in the end, had to Google. You had to not only had to Google it, had to go into IMDb to the actual episode to find out
Yeah.
who it was. And lo and behold, yes, she's in the Always Sunny episodes. I think she's in two, playing the same character. But Heather was one out of nearly 2,000 actors who got pulled into a music theatre
Mm.
just to do an audition.
Yeah, Mike said in the interview that I saw for The Love of Horror, Mike said that when they were interviewed, they were asked, "Oh, how were you approached or how were you pitched the movie?" And he was like, "No, we auditioned like everybody else." It was the ad went up in something called, I think it's called Backstage in America, but for us,
It
it
would
was
be
called The
stage.
Stage,
Yep, the stage,
which
right? Yeah.
the Stage we used to call the pole dancer newspaper when we were in
I can
when I was
understand why.
in the industry. It was the pole dancing paper, but you'd have the jobs. It wasn't for pole dancers, but there was a lot of jobs for exotic dancers and things like that in it. But it was supposedly for entertainment, so you could read between the lines and you could find your auditions coming up for West End shows next to somebody looking for an exotic dancer in Spearmint Rhinos. Do you know what I mean? It was like it was such a strange plethora of jobs you got there, but
I remember my dad getting us my first stage magazine to start looking for auditions, and we had to really filter, like really, really filter.
it was a fucking weird thing. You'd sit there with the pen and you'd circle all the ones that you either fit the
Yeah,
criteria to or that, and then the ones that were non-union jobs, because we obviously have our version of SAG here,
yeah.
which is, oh God, I've gone blank on it.
I can't remember what it's called.
Um,
Da-da. You,
no,
yeah,
it's not.
Dan's
It's
brain's
gone.
just broke.
Yeah, it's completely forgotten. But yeah, we have a version of SAG over here, and I know everybody's screaming at me, and I do apologize. Normally I remember it, but for some reason I haven't.
The
So
end of
you
the
go,
episode, you'll just shout it out.
yeah,
I got it.
yeah. So you'd look for your non-union jobs, unless you were. I keep wanting to say Esther, but that's how you get into the Americas. No, but yeah, that's how you
Yeah.
you got your jobs then. But yeah, she replied to that, so did he, and the advert said something like, um, im improvised role for new movie coming up, must like the outdoors.
Would be shot in wooded location.
That was it, yeah.
Yeah. And the only thing that they got asked in their audition was, you've served 7 years of a 9-year sentence. Why should we let you out on parole? That was the question that they got asked in their audition.
Which is really weird because what the fuck has that got to do with this movie at all?
Yeah. And Joshua Leonard was only cast because he's the only one who was able to work the camera.
Which they ended up getting a refund on because they'd finished using it and they took it back to Best Buy.
I think that's brilliant. That's so good. Well, pre-production for this started on the 5th of October 1997, and it took 8 days to shoot.
Yeah.
And it's further down in my notes. It took 8 days to shoot, but it would took, oh gosh, where is it?
8 months, I think, to
8
edit.
months. 8 months to edit it. That's absolutely right. Wow. Because I can imagine it's literally just from, even during the night, parts of night scenes and first thing on a morning, right the way all the way through, and they're just getting everything in there. And they did literally, they didn't know anything. What they did give them, and I think Heather actually has it on her at the beginning of the film, where she's like her essential books, and one of them is the law,
Yeah.
and that's all that they give them, because they did create a whole law around this Blair Witch that they were looking for.
And I know the law. I watched it on a video earlier, so I do know what the whole law was that they invented.
Go for it then.
Her name was Elle, and she was a
Ellie Kedward.
yes, she was a woman of the night, or she was made out to be a woman of the night, and she was known for sleeping with many, many men and having a good time. Well, lovely. And then from what I can remember, she there was some dalliances, and they said that because she'd been with the devil and she'd lost 7 babies or something, that she was then clearly a witch.
Really?
So she got banned to the woods, like they did back then. In England, they used to try and drown you, but over the
They would
here,
just kill you.
yeah, they just stick you out in the forest and let you fend for yourself. If she's a witch, she'll die. If she's a witch, she'll survive. I got
You're
better.
fucked. You're fucked either way.
Honestly, it never ever leaves me, that Monty Python's. She turned me into a newt. Well, what
Oh,
happened? Oh, I got better.
I got better. Did you see that the Witches of Scotland have got their own tartan now?
No,
So it's pretty big, like to get your own actual tartan, and it's beautiful as well. It's black
I was gonna say
with
good.
red, with gold, like lining it, but everything means something. Every stitch, every line means something, and it's all down to the women of the Witches of Scotland. Even though the whole point is you branded them witches, they were simply just women.
Hmm.
And there's a whole podcast on. My sister's been listening. She says it's absolutely amazing the history of it, and the advocacy work that they've done to get these women recognized as the women that they were, and not the witches that you claimed them to be.
And that is something as well, which I know I mentioned it in an episode a little while back. I'm watching the Mayfair Witches
Hmm.
sporadically because it's boring as fuck. But it's Anne Rice who did Interview with the Vampire, and it's all about the original Scottish witches
Hmm.
that were hung and drawn and hunted down by the Witchfinder generals, but they were actually midwives,
Yeah, they
and
were
that
they,
they
they
just
were
had
healers.
yeah, and they knew what herbs did what to help who and when, and and then a baby gets born with deformities because of all the interbreeding, in them days, and then they blame the
And disease.
midwife for giving birth, for the mother giving birth to a deformed baby, because it's clearly something the midwife did,
Oh,
not the fact that the genes are so on backwards. They're singing crisscross songs, jump
yeah.
back daddy.
I learned about a bthe bit of it. The Call the Midwife book obviously goes into the history of midwifery and how like that was a hated job. Like nobody wanted that job. It was actually frowned upon to be like these midwives are in my eyes like miracle workers. They are literally getting another human out of another human, and they're doing it safely and they're getting them out alive. Like that is miracle work.
There was two jobs that would leave you to be the loner of the village: the healer slash midwife and the executioner. They were the two jobs in any village you were ostracized, which is ironic because you think you'd be scared of the executioner, but
I mean, I
apparently
would. I
they
didn't
were
fancy losing my fucking head.
apparently the executioner was like ostracized or not well received because it was a
Mm,
dark job. So, it goes against God, but also it doesn't go against God. The Witchfinder General bringing his
oh,
Christianity nonsense into rural
yeah.
villages and trying to brainwash everybody into believing things. And it's just,
I love Vincent Price, but don't ever watch the Witchfinder General movie.
it's
Didn't do
hilariously
it.
bad. It's
Oh, it's so
hilariously
bad.
bad.
It's so bad. Yeah. So the Witches of Scotland. It's so interesting. It really is. I'm gonna give the podcast to listen to because you need to see the tartan as well because it is absolutely spectacular. I nearly had in my wedding my tartan. Even though I don't know technically what my tartan, because I don't know if I've ever told you all, but I am 52% Scottish. I've got a DNA test that proves it. But my husband does have Scottish heritage. I mean, Bryce. It comes from Bruce. Just saying, it comes from royalty. I'm just saying.
Yes.
I'm married into royalty. But they have their own tartan, and I was going to use it as part of my wedding, and then I looked at it and went, "No, thank you. You're okay. You're all right." It was
I'm
blue.
good. So,
It was blue. It wasn't very good. Yes, Ellie Kedward is actually named after Edward Kelly, who was a 16th century mystic, and Rustin Parr. That name mean anything to you through this movie? Apparently, it's got something to do with the law. Is actually a anagram of Rasputin.
ah, right, okay.
Who
Right. I had a lovely song with
Rah,
Boney M.
rah, Rasputin. It's got a good beat, mind. I love seeing people dance to that.
He was the
They
man who was riddled with every disease that was possible. Apparently had a schlong like a baby's arm and he had the worst breath and he was unhygienic and vile, but you
didn't.
couldn't kill the man.
I was going to say, didn't they shoot, hang,
There's
quarter,
a long
all
list
sorts,
they claim to have done.
poison?
Yeah, poison being the one I remember the most. I think that might have been the one that finished him off, but I could be wrong. They could have hung and quartered him. To be honest, that was my year 9 history, so it's a long time since I've learnt about Rasputin.
I didn't
I
do
just know it's
history.
lover of the Russian queen.
Na,
That
na, 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 um, during the movie, while it was being filmed, the directors kept in touch with the actors through walkie-talkies and would just basically give them direction on this is this is where you're at, this is what you're doing. Put yourself in that position and talk. They wrote 60 pages out of what they classed as dialogue, but naturally they had no intention of using it. They really wanted this to be an improvised thing. They set up a lot of things within the film and to scare the shit out of them. The tent scene in particular, where they hear the kid. Now, I tell you, there's a few things I actually picked up today that I've never picked up before. And I don't know if it was the position of my laptop because I am deaf in one ear. And I could hear the kids for once. I've never been able to hear the kids before.
Mm.
And listening to the kids at the tent. But yeah, that's the director coming out of nowhere because they didn't tell them it was going to happen and just started doing that on the side of the tent. But they told them under no circumstances you've got to stay there and you've just got to stay there and then you can leave.
Yeah, you've got to give
They
us
didn't.
time to move. Yeah.
Yeah, because they do leave the tent, they do run away.
There's with the sound effects, the breaking twigs and everything was literally just people positioned around like the periphery and they were breaking twigs and stuff like that and making noise. But the all the voices and all the kids' noises and all the weird like vocals were all pre-recorded and played through speakers around the various positions. So they think it was coming from this way, so they'd run that way and then it'd come at them this way, so then they'd run another way, so they
That's
wanted them to get
I'd be
really orientated as well.
I would be fucked because if someone stands behind me and talks this way to us on my left, I hear them on my right. So, and it really, the first time I ever met Becca from the Women of Nerd Culture, she stood behind us and started talking, and it really freaked us out because I could I could feel her presence, but she was over here. So I was like, I had to like quickly turn around and go, you can't talk behind us because I can't place where you are. So please don't scare me like that. And that scene where they run out of the tent was meant to be. So I want to make this very clear. This film, what you have, is I think it's great. However, and I have said at the beginning, it could have been. I see where people come from when they have like their problems with it. This could have been so much different, very more detailed, with
Mm-hmm.
additional scenes put in, with additional things put in, but they decided to take, in their opinion, not the easy way out, but the more scary way. They
Mm.
tested certain things. Now, this scene right here where they run out of the tent and they're going, "Oh my God, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that?"
Mm.
What you were meant to see was a very quick flash of a woman in white,
Mm.
but the audience didn't react to that. They were just more reacting to the fact of the running and the shouting and the fact he didn't see anything.
Well, I read something and I don't know what, obviously it's been 35 years or some nonsense, 25 years, 26 years since it come out. So the I heard that he was supposed to be, he had instruction to pan his camera towards her and then
Hmm.
pan away, but he didn't do it. And so they didn't catch it. So the woman in white
Right.
was there, but they didn't catch it on the film and they thought it worked better
Not seeing it.
not seeing it. So they chose, when they
Mm.
were in the editing room, they chose not to go back and reshoot anything. I don't think there was any reshoots as well.
Oh, no, there wasn't. No
So,
reshoots done. The final day of shooting was actually on Halloween night. and they planned on wrapping on that night because the batteries were running out in the car. And they were like,
They
let's
would
not
probably
let's not get new batteries. Let's just get this done. Get
just
this
say back
finished.
in the day when something would last you for 6 weeks with one charge, you know.
Doesn't even last 2 seconds these days. The end scene as well was meant to be very different. It was going to give you an explanation as to why Mike was standing in the corner and who cracked Heather across the head. But again, test audiences, it didn't work. They were more intrigued and scared by the fact of, well, what the fuck's he doing there? What the fuck is he doing there?
And to quote Mike, I was not having a piss. Because
It
that
does look like
in
it.
every one of the interviews he's gone, fan theories are that I was just having a piss and someone else was distracted. That the fact I was having a piss and it was distracting her. So she
Well,
was looking at me and then someone boshed her on the head, you know.
Well, this is what got me. So you clearly know for the point of view you're at when you're in that house, if you're with Mike or with Heather, but there is a certain point where I don't know if that's Heather carrying the camera or is it Mike's camera. There's like a certain because she sounds so far away.
I want to kill her
Oh, I get that.
in this episode, in this part of the film, right? I get she's scared.
Hmm.
Don't get me wrong, I completely understand, and that's how some people cope with being frightened, screaming and screaming and screaming. But you are going around a house which you suspect someone's in. You can hear Josh in the basement or in
Hmm.
the attic, wherever you thought he was, and you screaming like a banshee at Mike doesn't make any sense. And
No,
why did Mike run off so quickly and leave her? You know, she's annoying. I'd run off and leave her, but that's not what I think. Why he ran off and left her. So
you could hear Josh.
yeah, I think when we get to talking about this end scene, there's some
Hmm.
theories. Obviously, there's no hard and fast answer to what actually happened, but there are theories, and
There
that's
is,
it. That's all you have.
yeah, yeah. I was going to say something else and I've totally forgotten. Maybe we should just get into the movie.
Yeah, why not?
Get in the movie. It's not the longest of movies,
No.
but that's good. Doesn't leave you dragging. Doesn't leave dragging at all.
Oh, and I'm glad it's not because you don't need to see an hour and a half of three people walking around the woods. You know, don't get
Watch
me
Lord of
wrong.
the Rings.
You get
I
some
snorted
scene,
again.
you get some scene being in Lord of the Rings, and you get a bit of like,
A bit of Vigo.
but you get some more scenery. You know, you get a bit of New Zealand or a bit of fjords
Yeah,
and
because I'm walking. I'm
something.
walking with the Fellowship. That's what I'm looking at. Is the scenery.
Or do you know what? There's more
I get
going
you.
on than just some twigs. Just
A lot of twigs.
um, I think that this is the thing with this film. The actual scary parts of this movie probably only total 10 minutes, maybe 15 at a push. You know, the nighttime bits where they're feeling something's happening and the very end scene. When you add up all that scary shit,
Mm.
not very much. And the rest
No,
of it is just three people walking around and around and around in the woods.
there is one bit, and we'll get into it when we talk about the film. There is one bit that makes me a bit uncomfortable, and I
Mm.
almost thought today when I was watching it, "Oh my God, are you possessed? Are you actually possessed?"
Let's go for
Or
it, shall we?
yeah. Um, the film starts where you meet the three filmmakers. At Heather's house.
Think so. I think um, Heather and waiting for Josh.
Yeah,
Josh comes, he's late, and then they go pick up Mike.
yeah, that's right. And 'cause the first thing that you see is an out of focus Heather Donahue.
Mm.
Um, is she classed as Heather Donahue now? Sorry, just before we go any further, because
I
she did change her name.
IMDb still has her as Heather Donahue.
Right. I wonder if it's because she's coming back into acting. That
Maybe it's her SAG-AFTRA name. Maybe I don't know.
that's a good point. I was because yeah, she did end up actually legally changing her name, because of the job that she does. What's her
Yeah,
job?
she owns a medical grade cannabis farm and dispensaries around the US, to my knowledge. So
Yep.
you
She
know,
grows weed.
basically
Medical weed.
legal weed. Not
It's
my
a
cup of tea, but if that's what you're into and it floats your boat,
yeah, the smell.
as long
Awful.
as you're not robbing anyone for it, then you know.
And also, your dispensaries in America, they're all legal. And obviously,
Oh,
I
you've
think
got a
you've got
card.
go card, yeah, go card and whatnot. Hey, they're a bit more progressive in that manner than what we are. Let's be honest.
Can you imagine though, over here? Jesus Christ.
Might chill some fucking people out.
Yeah, but it'd be getting robbed every other week.
Oh, that's
I
true.
want to break. Some little chav would be brapping his way into the room
Brap
with
and
his
bruv.
with his vape and his Ford Escort, Ford Fiesta, trying to put it through the window. Do you know what I mean? It's like this. This is what we have to. You have guns in America, and they make very loud bang bang pew pew noises. Over in England, we get a bunch of chavs waving around a stick that's a bit shiny, that's pointy at one end, and then they ram raid places with their little shitty cars,
Yeah,
and
we
then
actually had a full weekend last year where the fuckers decided to riot.
and it's always chavs. It's always these same nasty little nonsense people, but we're
I
going
don't.
off topic.
Would an American audience know what a chav is? And it's great that Universal across the UK, there's no other name for it
They
but
are
chav.
a
Trainer wearing socks pulled over the tracksuit bottoms, Nike Air
sweatpants.
Max,
Yeah, they wear sweatpants predominantly. Then
big
they will
Burberry house hats.
they'll wear big white pull-up like knee-high socks over the top of their boots, over the top of their sweatpants. Then they'll have the latest trainers on. Then they will have some sort of Jack Wills or branded hoodie. Then some of them wear like neck scarf balaclava thingies over their
Mm.
faces, and then they'll have their hoods up. And then others will wear, like you say, some terrible knockoff Burberry
And
nonsense cap. Um,
them
they all
caps.
smoke weed, they all smoke, they all drink some sort of like Midori 2020. I know that was me when I was a kid.
Mad
They all
Dog
drink,
2020.
they
White
drink
Lightning.
something. They're just they are what we would call a plague.
They are. And you know what's absolutely hilarious? These are the people who would absolutely, rip us goths a new one, yet we're the fucking weird looking ones.
I
You,
would
your style in the last 25 years has not changed.
I think I would
Wow.
equate them to a redneck, but in the UK, rednecks are quite lovable
Yeah.
because they have this weird. When we
I
look at
watch
the US,
Yellowstone.
well, that's the thing. When we look at the US rednecks, there's a whole thing about them. I'm not talking about your functioning society member rednecks. I'm talking about Billy Bob Joe, who's the third cousin and sister brother of his mother wife, and he has a pickup and he wears Daisy Dukes and he drinks 40s by the river, and his version of a bath is getting in the lake, and he's got less teeth than a comb. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
that's the redneck that I'm equating these chavs to. They're that kind of plague on the society where they will draw welfare, but they smoke. They've got better mobile phones than we have. They've got full sky. They've got nice houses, but it's all paid for by the state because that's just what these people are. So
Yeah. Well, we took a fucking detour there, didn't we? We took a fucking detour there.
but I love me a redneck, so I just want to go back to that. I do love me a redneck. So
Oh, me too. Honestly, uh, I think I don't know if I've said this on here before or just to you personally. I genuinely believe that in another life I was born in the South, in America, Texas, the lakes of Mississippi and stuff like that. I genuinely believe I was part. Like I just want that Southern drawl accent or a Texan accent.
yeah, you definitely did a cotillion or two in your time.
Bet I did. Right, where are we? Oh, I'm not even on the plot. Oh, I am. The oh god, where is tonight gone? This is not how I was expecting tonight to go. I had a fucking Derek Cora impression, which was magical, by the way.
Sam said
Magical.
thank you.
Fuck you. I'm fucking clipping that for TikTok. So the documentary makers, they meet up together and they're kind of giving you a little bit of the law. About the locals talking about Rustin Parr, a hermit who used to live deep in the forest and abducted children.
Mm.
And then you've got Ellie,
Ellie. Yeah,
L,
I'm aware.
yeah. And the showing you kind of like the filming process in a way because they've got I take it they've got two cameras because the camera view does change. They're from the one that they're using to document everything and the one that they're using to film their
Yeah,
film.
they've got like a normal, what I would call a normal video camera. Uh,
Hmm.
one, I don't know whether it's one that you put a tape in, but you know, it's one of those
Yeah,
video cameras. And then they've got a big, like, what looked like a shoulder mounted one because
them
Matt
ones.
starts screaming, doesn't he? That I've got to get this camera back by Monday. I've got to get it back by Monday because I think he took it without permission
Right.
over the weekend. But that was the impression I got from the dialogue
Mhm.
anyway.
It makes sense. So yeah, so they're showing you the locals and they're doing their because in one point they're talking to three fishermen and she's like, I need consent, just verbal to say yes, you are happy to be on camera and I'll take that as your consent. And it looks like, your typical documentary where you've got your presenter who's, got the beautiful backdrop where she's talking about the witch and everything that and then yeah, they go to a hotel for the first night.
Yeah, they go to a motel and they start talking about what they need to do. I think at this point they've interviewed pretty much everybody that,
They
but with how this worked was the production guys had set all these people up as plants and they'd sort of,
fed them.
yeah, fed them the whole thing about the law
Hmm.
so that they knew what they were going to talk about when they got called to sort of, they were pointed in the direction of these people, but the guys went and asked them all these questions, and these people had been pre-fed. They were plants. They knew what they were. They weren't trained actors. They were people from the town,
Yeah,
people who were happy to just be in the film kind of thing. They weren't like there's a
that's right.
there's a woman that they interview, and it's not Mary Brown. It's a different woman. She they she was like she gave one of the best testimonies about something, and then she never gave her consent and she just disappeared and they couldn't find her again. So I
Ah.
don't think they ever used her in there, but apparently it was one of the best like stories
Hmm.
of everybody's, but they couldn't use it because they didn't have a
Oh,
consent.
that's a shame. Well, the fishermen tell them that the forest is cursed. This place is cursed. But also tell them about a young child named Robert Weaver who went missing in 1888. Um, Robin Weaver. That's a girl. Because when she returned 3 days later, she talked about an old woman whose feet never touched the ground. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Clever. Um, Probably fake as well. Will
Mhm.
be fake. But yeah, the students, our three main cast people, head off to Coffin Rock. After they've done their locals and they've spent the night in the motel, they head to Coffin Rock. Um, Jesus Christ, how much have I missed of this film? Where five men were found ritualistically slaughtered in the 19th century and their corpses were later disappeared. Did I miss something?
He talks about it basically. The I don't know whether it was her or one of the interviewees talk about it, but there's a thing where that apparently these five men were attached from ankle to wrist in a big
Yes.
circle thing, and they were left on Coffin Rock. And the person that found them said that they had all like writing and scars gouged into their faces, and it was very ritualistic, and it was very um it was crazy. So when that person that found them ran off to find help to bring people back to show them,
They were
all
gone.
five bodies are gone, and there was
That's
no
so
trace of
Game
it
of
whatsoever.
Thrones. That's
Yeah,
so
there was
Game of
no
Thrones.
trace of it whatsoever.
The first episode of Game of Thrones with the Night Walkers, where they find the camp and there's all the circle and that, and then when he walks away and comes back, it's gone. Game of Thrones. Oh my God, George R. R. Martin, what are you doing? Actually, I think Game of Thrones might have been wrote well before this. um, but yeah, I must have missed something. I really must have missed something.
Quick snippet. It's just when they're talking about like why they were at Coffin Rock. And
Yeah,
then she's like, "Oh, I have to do my excerpt from the book and talk about the law inside the little hovel bit."
right. I remember seeing that bit.
Mm.
This is one of the criticisms of this film is the law isn't explained in enough detail.
No, you have to do your homework for it.
Uh-huh. Which is why the ending is as confusing as
Yeah.
what it is. Because I've always wondered, what the fuck you stand there for? So yeah, they spend the night there, and it's all pretty chilled. This is the sausage joke comes in at this point.
Is that the Blair Witch? No, it's Heather taking a piss.
Yeah, you can tell they are acquaintances. They are not friends.
Mm. Because they instantly get up each other's ass, not literally. They instantly,
Not that type
really
of
annoy
movie.
each other. Could have been. But yeah, you can tell that the discourse was not good between Mike
No.
and Heather, but that wasn't where the issue was. The genuine issue was between Josh and Heather, and they genuinely hated each other in real life. They did not get on, and they only ever once stepped in to stop them two fighting because it was so bad. They didn't know what was going to happen. So I don't know if they've sorted it out now or
He
whatever.
doesn't care, man. He's got his Hollywood life. Like he like I say, he's the one who went off and had he when he could, because this movie came with a fair few attachments. He went off and had a career.
Yeah,
But I got initially Mike and her didn't like each other, especially when it all starts booting off.
yeah, because he gets
But
really mad really quickly, doesn't he?
I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait until off a minute until we get to where I
Yeah.
want to bring this up. Um, so do they realize that they're lost at this point? Because
No,
it's
they're at the Rock. She's done a little reading in the
uh
thing, and then they go and camp for the night, and this is where the tent thing happens.
this the stick snapping.
Yeah, and like he they said, "Oh, I heard cackling." And she was like, "Oh, I was out cold." And then
Yeah.
the other one was like, "If I'd have heard cackling, I would have literally shit myself." And she was like, "Oh, I can't smoke in the tent, but he can fucking fart and shit himself in the tent." And they're having that bit of banter, and they weren't really taking it seriously, but Josh was the one who said he heard cackling,
Yeah.
and Mike and Heather were just trying to sort of laugh it off.
Yeah. There's still it's not the tension hasn't broken yet until Heather realizes the map is missing.
And not only that, she's convinced the cemetery's only just up the road, and she keeps telling them an hour away, 2 hours away.
I'm
Oh, it should
telling
be
you,
another 2 hours away.
I'm
This is where
telling
she
you
starts
now.
to annoy me. Really.
Oh, I've never noticed before how Heather is so fucking annoying in this film. But the thing is, half the decisions that she makes and the doubling down that she does, I
Mhm.
would do exactly the fucking same. If so, if someone said, if I'd made a point that we having to go up there, that's where we're going. We're going straight up, and that's where we need to be. And someone turns around and tells me I'm wrong. I'm doubling down and going, no, motherfucker, I'm right. Like, there's a lot of things in there I really identify with myself because at one point I'm getting so annoyed with her. I'm like, Sam, that's you. What she is doing right there is something you would do. I
For
double
me,
down hard.
but it's like she didn't know how to read a map, and she was trying to blag it.
Me neither. I haven't got a fucking clue. I've got no sense of direction.
But if I was in the woods, I'd make sure one of us could read a map. I wouldn't be
Oh yeah.
responsible for map reading. Do you know what I mean? I'm like,
Oh yeah, don't give me in charge. When we went to Paris, me, my sister, and my mum, I said I'm not getting involved in any of the transportation or anything like that. You tell me where to go, and I'll go. It's the same when I drive. I'm happy to drive anywhere, but as long as the person sitting next to us is willing to tell me where I'm going in advance. By the way, not what my mother does and tells us to wait. Hang on a minute. I'm sorry. How would you like me to hang on while I'm driving my car? You tit. Um, yeah, but I was, there was when I was watching it today, I was like, oh my God, am I Heather Donahue? I'm like, am I that bad?
and then they realize the map's gone.
Yeah, this is where things I looked at it a little bit differently than I ever have done today, and I don't know if it's because I'm really looking at it today. Um, when Mike starts to lose it a bit, and he's laughing, and I get it, I get where that laugh is coming from. Because he's had enough. He literally has had enough of Heather's bullshit. But he reveals that because initially Josh and her are kicking off with each other. I
Hmm.
give you the map, no, you didn't. And again, this is me. I am sticking to my word. If I give you it, I give you that map.
Yeah.
Um, but it eventually comes out that Mike actually kicked it into the creek out of frustration.
And apparently they filmed it, but they didn't see him do it. And it was footage that they thought was best not shown because the other two didn't notice. So they thought
No.
it was pointless to show
the audience. We don't need to see everything.
because he was filming himself kicking it in the river.
Right.
And they said you couldn't see any reactions. They weren't aware he did it, so it was redundant footage. So we cut that.
Yeah.
So, but you would have known 2 days ago or however long ago it was where he kicked it into the river that.
They're not. They're,
And
they're
is this
lost.
where you think he starts to get?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's
Yeah.
something,
There's something not
something
right
afoot.
about him.
Yeah, something
There's
changes in Mike for
there's his,
sure.
and then it go, and so yes, it's the hysteria, which, like I said, there's part of it I can get because I understand. With frustration, it gets to the point where that you either laugh or you cry, and he does say that. If I don't laugh, I'm just going to cry about the situation. But it's when he eventually admits that he kicked the map into the creek, that the way he spoke then was so different. And then it changes later on when Josh has a meltdown and he sounds like himself again.
Mm.
But it's a lot nicer version of him where he's like, give him a minute. Come on, don't be putting the camera in. He's upset. He needs a minute. Don't put the camera in his face. That's hurtful. And her twittering on in the background. Oh well, if we just shut up, Heather.
But this
Just
is
shut
why I
up.
think she's just as possibly possessed as the rest of them because she's the way she was so intent on documenting their
Everything.
misery.
Yeah.
It was more so she wanted their reactions in real time. It no longer became about a documentary about a witch in a wood. It became more of a documentary about three people that got lost because she was so adamant to get these reactions for the documentary because
Mhm.
and unlike Josh was like, why do you need this? You don't need this. Mike was like, you don't need to be on that 24/7.
No.
And I think one of them says to her, I can understand why you like this camera because it doesn't look like reality when you're looking through the lens.
Yeah.
It's words like that. It's not
No,
words.
no, and that would be totally understandable. Oh God, I had a really good point and it's gone now. Okay, it'll probably come back to us in a minute.
They were in the,
Um,
and then they go to the tent, don't they? I think this is where the shaking and the
yeah.
really fucks them up. Where there's that scene where they're supposed to have seen the lady in white, but they didn't, and
Is
they
this
go,
where
well,
the is this where they lose Josh?
and oh, this might be the one where there's KY jelly all over Josh's shit, and he goes,
That's
"Ah,
what, and that's when he gets upset because that's when Mike's like, "Listen, just
yeah,
leave him alone."
yeah,
And you know what? Is it? This is what the point I was gonna make. Is it a case of because we know that there's some spooky shit going on? We've heard the kids, and then what have we seen? But there's some spooky shit going on. Are we thinking possession because of that, or is it really just watching three people psychologically break?
oh, it's watching three people psychologically break. And the only reason I'm thinking possession is because of the suggestibility of the ending, because we
Yeah,
know the ending. So when you watch it for a second time, you can look at it with a different.
yeah,
But 100%, if you're watching it for the first time, it is an experiment. Really, you're just watching three people that have been fed little, that are camping outside for 8 days straight, that are fucking cold, piss
yeah.
wet through, not
I had
sleeping.
I had one cigarette in 3 days.
I
As an
mean,
ex-smoker, that would actually kill us.
so they're going through all these things in the name of the making of this movie, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'd say it's psychologically broke because they are well aware they're still acting. That's the thing. They know that they've still got to act, but they're
It's so real.
there's this that's the thing with improv. There's this whole danger with improv. You've got to think on your feet. You've also got to catch in the mindset. And they never had a discussion on the first day about staying in character.
Haven't
They
they got a safety word in
taco
improv? Yeah.
in this what in their movie it was taco, and that was Mike's idea. But the they in the first day they never broke character, and then I think something happened where they had to, and then they found the safety word, which was taco, and then
Mhm.
that was used when they needed to break. But in improv, it's such a weird thing because they can get swallowed by everything
Yeah.
because they start to live that experience as that person and
With
think like
improv.
that person, and
Oh, absolutely. And you don't know when to stop.
Mhm.
And you don't want to be the person to break character without having to, because they do have a safety. It's usually kangaroo.
Mm.
That's the most common one that I've heard anyway with improv. But it's just it's because people can take this shit very seriously, I mean, Christ, there's been studios set up for improv and such. Um, so yeah, so yes, the KY jelly part has happened,
Josh is so upset because it's only on his stuff. It's not on anybody else's. So I think we're
but
at this point we're led to believe it's some sort of spectre that's come along and put some ectoplasm on his bits.
Slimer got himself about. But isn't Josh the
Or
only one who moved the twigs? When
yes,
they saw the clump of rocks and whatnot, wasn't it Josh the only one who knocked them? Because Heather turned around and said, "I can't believe that you've knocked them over."
and she put them back and she apologized to the
Hmm.
rocks.
Yeah,
But then you've got all the twig men in the trees, haven't you, everywhere? And then you got the bundle of twigs,
yeah.
and like that's that bundle of twigs. They find that after Josh disappears, though, don't
It's
they?
after Josh, yeah, because they start absolutely melting down, like freaking out, because that's where so Josh ends. Is it? Hold on, hold on. Covered in slime. So they come across the river. That's right. They've done a circle.
Yeah, and they find out they've been trekking south for what 2-3 days at this point,
Yeah,
and they come right back to where they started.
yeah. And Heather has an absolute meltdown. And this is the next morning. So whatever happens, they go to sleep, and the next morning, that's when Josh is gone. And Mike and Heather start trying to find him, and apparently don't bother looking during the night because they set up camp again. And this is where they can hear Josh crying and
Mhm.
shouting out for them, and that's when they run out to go
And it's
and
that weird bundle of twigs though, with the dead pigeon bird in it, and the teeth and the hair. And it turns out that
Josh's.
that was Josh's hair. He did cut his hair.
Yeah, he cut his
And
hair off. There were and the fabric around was Josh's flannel shirt, and yeah, that was today. I think that was the first time ever I'd seen the teeth.
mm,
I don't think I've seen
so
them
much in
before.
there. But the teeth came from the dentist, of Eduardo's dentist, because he approached his dentist and went, "Have you got any teeth? I'm making a movie and I need them as props." And he was like, "Yeah, take some teeth because they're only going to go to the incinerator. It's fine. Not the incinerator 'cause you can't burn teeth, but you know what I mean. They're only going to go somewhere and be destroyed or crushed or whatever happens to teeth." And he gave him a load of teeth.
I
So
wanted mine when they took them out. I've just read what was actually in there, and I'm really glad I only just saw the teeth. A tongue,
yes,
a finger,
yeah,
teeth, and hair.
yeah. That was actually Josh's real hair. He cut off his own head.
I would literally have vomited all over it.
I mean, that would freak you out. I mean, they weren't aware, these three, that this law wasn't correct. They were told that this was a real witch law in this area.
Oh yeah, yeah,
They had no idea it was made up by these guys,
yeah. She doesn't tell Mike. Why doesn't she tell Mike?
that she found this bundle.
Uh-huh. Because he
Because
goes, "What have you found?" And she goes, it's fine, it's okay, it's okay."
I think it's because she didn't want either she didn't want to freak him out anymore, or it's that if she doesn't believe she saw it, then it didn't happen kind of mentality. You've got to the point on your brain where you're just like, this is too much. So I'm just going to say, right, no, that's fine. Next. And just, do you know what I mean?
Mm,
Like, be able to put it to one side.
yeah. Well, this is where the most famous scene out of this whole movie comes up next,
Hmm.
where Heather, and she impromptu did this, nobody asked her to, did her "I'm sorry"
Mm.
that is being parodied brilliantly by Scary Movie.
Yeah, with the bogey and the drips and the
Yeah,
crying.
because it's right up her nose.
Yeah, you get
Um,
full view of her brain.
Pretty much, yeah. But this was it was she did this on our own off her own back.
Mm.
Um, and she does the whole "I'm sorry" and admits that something evil is following them and is literally it is going to kill them. She understands at this point. She's not getting out of this wood alive.
And she said, "I'm scared to close my eyes and I'm scared to open my eyes." And she's like, she's aware that Mike's around somewhere at this point, but she doesn't know where. She can hear him. She knows he's there. And
Hmm.
then I think they have a half conversation. And then next thing you know, Mike's just gone.
This is where they've come across the house.
Yeah, well, no, when I say he's gone, there's a time when she thinks he's like he's gone.
Oh, right.
He hasn't. He's looped around and she has that panic, but then she sees him again. And
And
then
oh, you're there.
yeah, and then they hadn't set up camp at this point on that, had they? They wander
Mm-mm.
to, and they come across this house in the wood, which just happens to be Rara Rasputin's old house, is what the impression I get,
It is.
whether I'm
Yeah.
right or not. But
Rustum
yeah,
Parr's house, yeah, featuring all the creepy kids'
and
handprints all over the place. Probably would have been great if I actually took in that part at the beginning. It's honestly sometimes I watch Shapes and Colors, I really do, and do myself no favors. But the hear Josh from in the house shouting,
well, the story goes that he used to lure children there and in pairs. That was the story. This guy used to lure the children in pairs. He'd make one stand in the corner whilst he'd hurt the other one.
did they say that at the beginning?
Said it at the beginning.
For the love of fucking God, man.
I think it's
Um,
the guy, the older gentleman with the grey hair when they're interviewing him. I think he's the one that brings it up.
I'm not joking. I have seen this film. You think the way that I'm acting on, I didn't pick that up at all, and it has been something that's confused us because, and what's really just caught me eye is my notes where it says trying to locate Josh. They go to the basement where an unseen monster. They use the word monster assaults Mike. Do they know something I don't?
Well, you don't.
And it says unseen monster assaults Heather.
I've got to be honest, I'm going to guess this is where the possession of Josh took place because I feel like Josh is the one that's possessed and Josh is the one that bashes Heather over the head and Mike.
Right. So just to end the movie, because I want to hear the theories,
All
because
right.
I've not actually read into any of them. At the end of it, Mike runs off in one direction, Heather runs off in the other, because obviously in a fucking creepy house, that's what you do, you separate.
And she screams like a banshee for a good 5 minutes, and I just wish she'd lost her voice because, frankly, if you think there's somebody in that house and that Josh is screaming, "Help me," and you think there's someone in the house and you're bringing that much attention to yourself,
Yeah. You're grateful for the smack across the head at the end, to be honest.
oh, mm,
But she does see Mike in the corner of the room, and she walks up to him, Mike, Mike, and while she is squealing her head off, she
mhm,
then gets hit across the head. The camera drops to the floor. It stays there for a
mhm.
good length of time, and I'm like, today I was eagle-eyed on it. I'm like, looking, nothing. There is nothing on there, and the movie ends.
Mhm.
I'm really intrigued to hear this because I heard there was theories, but I didn't go and look into them.
Right, the three that I know, I've mentioned about someone said he was just having a piss, and then she got bushed over the head by Josh because he'd had enough of her bullshit. So they lured her, they had lured her down there to shut her up, basically. That was one theory. Another theory was it was aliens.
No,
No, I'm sorry, there's no
I
X-Files
choose not to
bullshit
believe
going on.
that.
Um, and the third one was that Josh became possessed with the spirit of Rasputin, and he lured them down there and then made one of them stand in the corner like he did with the old children while he killed the other one, and then went on to kill Mike, um, like he
I
did all the children. That was the
I
other one, which
I
is more
would
plausible.
yeah, I would see that one being more plausible. That makes more sense if I knew at the beginning what I should have listened to properly. I don't know how many times I've done this where I've missed stuff that's important to the plot and just thought nothing of it. Like I'm gonna have to start listening because I've always wondered as to why he's standing in the corner, and it obviously gets fucking told here at the beginning as to why.
Yeah.
Sorry, people, do not come for me. I have a very short attention span to start with, and a memory that is worse than Dory's from Finding Nemo. So I'm just gonna stick with that one. But yeah, that is the movie. It's literally a few days of people losing their minds from settled, calm environment to complete and utter anger, fear, to then paranoia, even more like paranoia on top of fear, on top of anger, the layers just keep going on. It's not like one disappears and another one appears. Everything is laid on top of each other until you're eventually in this house and fucking shit has literally just gone down.
And due to this film, Heather and Mike did not work
Nah.
for a very long time in the movie industry. They got kind of blacklisted, which was weird. And I
Yeah.
don't understand. I can't figure out for why.
There's nothing to say as to why it happened,
Yeah.
but Mike ended up trying because, like I said, there was commitments with this movie. They made them sign, and 20 odd years later, I think we feel the benefits of especially remembering the promotional side of this and whatnot. But for them, they had a long time between, and you've got to remember when people are working, like there's a reason sometimes actors have like hundreds of credits to their name is because they're constantly, as soon as one project's done, before they even start promoting that one, they're on to the next one. They couldn't do that. They had to literally stand still and wait to see what happened. And I hope to God they didn't take a salary for this. I hope they got a percentage.
I think they took salaries
Damn
because
it.
they don't look well off. I mean, I couldn't find out anything to do with
No,
how.
I couldn't see anything. And it is something I now look for.
Yeah.
Given what we've learned about Baylor and other people who have made the decision not to get a salary but take a percentage of the movie. And I couldn't find anything on it. But yeah, Mike and Heather got a really raw deal. Why Josh didn't, I don't know. It might just be down to his character and he kind of fought for it, maybe.
I think because I I can only presume this is one of the biggest social experiments ever to be put
Hmm.
on film, really, because whilst there was some manipulation from the crew, at the end of the day, it was watching three people in getting lost in the woods, getting agitated with each other, getting scared shitless, going
Hmm.
through every emotion possible. Yes, they have an awareness they can be pulled out, but there's also still that thought that, oh, what if the walkie-talkie doesn't work? What if
Yeah,
they can't hear us when we scream? What, all the what ifs. And then when Josh disappears, I don't know if that was scripted. Do you know what I mean? So it could have
yeah,
been a surprise to them that Josh disappeared. And then finding the house could have been a surprise. All Mike
hmm,
knew was he had to go and stand in the corner in the basement.
yeah.
That's all Mike's instructions were on that day. So I feel like it was quite a sick in the way of like just sitting back and watching what would happen and
Yeah.
letting it unfold. You know,
Not having
really
any
quick.
they could have controlled it a bit better.
Yeah, and I feel like there could have been more substance to the plot in the sense of that
Yeah.
it was very sparse.
They actually signed a permission slip which was classed as mess with your head.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
The most powerful example of this would be probably the late night tent attack,
Mm,
because that was probably the worst bit out of it all. It was in the dark, it was in a confined space, and they had no idea it was going to happen.
mm,
Um, Heather was so badly affected by this. Um, she was actually threatened, physically threatened,
mhm.
by employees and the from the backlash of it. She retired in 2008 to pursue her career in medical cannabis.
Yeah, basically
Basically, she became a dealer.
what happened was from Heather's point of view was that when they found out she was an actress and not really missing,
Yeah,
the family got hate mail, they got death threats, because it was like you made us believe it was real and it never was. And it was never the actors again, because the actors are the face, they're the ones that get the shit. But at the
yeah,
end, you have to look at like Eduardo and that they are the ones that wrote it.
they
But
wanted to do this.
yeah. So, and on top of that, the movie house that produced it only acquired it for 1.1 million. So
Ha!
they got a return of like 247 of the 248 million it made. So
They did. They were very clever in what they did, and very clever with the market, and it just kind of came in a little bit of a cost for some people. Probably massive. And I hope, and I think if she's doing conventions now
Mhm.
for this movie,
Yeah.
solely for this movie, there's got to be some inner peace
Yeah, because
in there.
when they did the For the Love of Horror, there was Heather, Mike, and Eduardo.
Hmm.
Josh was booked, but he cancelled last minute for whatever reason. Um, and to have the director and the two actors all three on stage, and then they've started doing conventions more often because when you start looking into this on YouTube, there's lots of videos with the
Yeah.
cast all together. So you can see they've either made up or they're
Time's a great healer.
yeah, it's not obligation anymore. There's
Mm,
no obligation for these three people to sit on stage or talk to each other. They
no.
don't have any, other than, oh, they're offering us a nice chunk of money. Let's go for it, you know.
Yeah. I've one of my notes here is about when Stephen King had his near fatal car crash. It was, oh, what's his son called again? I can't
No.
remember. Joe brought him this on videotape, and he was like, "I can't watch it. It's too scary." Stephen King thought it was too scary, but I am going to give you one of the best you can tell them all about the distributing team who turned this away. It's all yours, dear.
Thank you. The pride I have in this moment. They went to a certain man, approached him, and he was in his infancy at the time. But they approached him with the film. He watched the film and he was like, "Nah, that's not gonna be very big. Um, I don't see that going anywhere." And I have to say, this would have made Jason Blum a fuckload of money had he have taken it up. But Jason Blum's taste and understanding of the horror genre, full stop, does this not go to show he should have taken the risk to start off? And then maybe we would have a whole nother thing come out of Blumhouse had he have taken this whole genre seriously. I bet for the first 5 years after that movie came out and it hit the way it hit and the money it made, for the first 5 years, Jason Blum was sitting there going,
Oh, I bet he hit himself every day. What's got me is on my notes, I've got Miramax passed on the opportunity
well, that's
to
Weinstein.
distribute it. But it
Miramax.
said but it said the decision was made by executive Jason Blum. Did he work at Miramax?
It's another reason in the long list of reasons why I don't like Mr. Blum. But everybody's different. I
Oh
don't know how
yeah.
much he was involved in any of that nonsense. So
I would like to think none, but you don't know. You don't know. He did go on to do the extremely profitable found footage horror films Paranormal Activity.
yes,
Um,
but oh, where did he get the idea from that?
Let me think. It's very. Do you know what? There's so much similarity. I do like the Paranormal Activity movies, but again, I love found footage horror. And I thought the more the movies went on, the more creative they got with their found footage. But the only ones I really like and would go back and watch again is the first two. I think they're very cleverly interlinked with each other. Obviously, that it's family members. But there was a lot I could recognize from Blair Witch into Paranormal Activity.
But hasn't that what Jason based his entire career on? It really is. The man has
I'm
taste.
starting to see it more and more as we kind of get into these.
You see his movie and you've
Hmm.
watched his movie, be it The Invisible Man, be it Happy Death Day, be it any one of the many, many slashes he's had his
Hmm.
hands in, Megan, whatever is a Blumhouse movie, right? And you think to yourself, oh, yeah, I understand the trope of that.
Yeah,
And you watch one of these movies and you're like, hang on a minute, when did this come out? And then you trace it back and you're like, oh, this is 20 years before. How
yeah,
does that look so similar to that one? And then you're like, oh, well, hang on. He turned that film down and then he went off and made his own version of the film, but based it somewhere different and made it different enough that you wouldn't twig that, you wouldn't know the fact that he knew about this film. And so he rode on the coattails of this, and then he rides on the coattail of like slasher movies, and he rides on the coattail of that's how Jason works. There's no substance to his horror. They are fast cookie cutter horrors.
yeah,
And yes, sometimes you do get one that comes out like The Black Phone, right? I think it's a very
yeah.
slow paced film. It's not really my cup of tea, but The Black Phone does have an iconic kind of
Look,
killer, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. Oh,
And so I can give him kudos for those sorts of things. Or even though artistic design has not got fuck all to do with him, the guy's just the head of the
yeah.
picture house. But I it's boring because Jason is the one thing, he will hop on one and he will flog it to death. You've seen it, Paranormal Activity. There's like 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 of those films now.
There's a lot now. We kind of lost off after maybe 4.
And then everything's got to have a sequel or a franchise. And it's not necessary. It is
Yeah.
not necessary. It's like he will milk it till it dies. And
I'm starting to see it.
for me, this is just all my personal opinion, and you're free to disagree with me. And I completely understand if you do, and I'm not going to fight you about it. I'm not one of these
No,
people.
she never fights me, and I like Happy Death Day.
Yeah, I'm never going to insist that I'm 100% right because there's every chance that I might rewatch a film and actually quite like it. Because there is the odd occasion where I've seen a Blumhouse and I've gone,
Mm-hmm.
actually, that wasn't too bad
Mm-hmm.
because it's so different from the other stuff. And so he has
But
his moments,
yeah,
shall we say. But I feel like with your Ari Asters and your A24 and your Osgood Perkins coming now, there's some
coming in
real,
hard, isn't he?
yeah, but there's some real independent
Talent.
original ideas
You,
come in. And
yeah,
I think this is what we need. We need to step away from the cookie cutter, you know,
because
bullshit.
it's what's dragged horror down for so many years. And we may not all agree with the liking of his films, but Jordan Peele is a prime example of really good fucking story, in my opinion, really good fucking storytelling.
Mm.
But yeah, Blumhouse. What the fuck?
Dumbass.
I've just found in my notes the alternative. I want to class this as an alternative ending,
Mhm.
but it is something that they did shoot because this is what they give to test audiences.
Mm.
The ending with Mike in the corner. So they showed the test audience that, and then they showed them the other one, and it was gonna have Mike hanging from a noose, having him crucified to a large stick figure, which is what we'd seen in the movie, which is apparently the only merchandise you can ever buy from this film.
Good.
Um, do you have them?
I can make one. I'll make one tomorrow with a couple of lolly sticks.
Yay! Um, Yeah, so he's crucified in a large stick figure. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? And appearing with a bloodied chest. Stick figures themselves were experimented with as decorations in the final scene. In the end, the directors were actually pretty happy with the original ending, which is the one that we see, and the test audience approved of that one.
I feel like had it gone to that the other ending you were talking about, not the one that we see now,
Yeah.
it feels very the one with when we watched that movie with the elemental with Rafe Spall, the
Oh, the ritual. No, the
the
ritual.
ritual, yeah, the ritual. It feels very much like that. You're stepping into that sacrificial, weird kind of like element of what happened to those guys. And
Yeah,
I'm glad they didn't because it felt you've either got to have a supernatural, a ritualistic.
it's got it all the way
Whilst I
through.
know the ritual was supernatural in one way,
Yeah,
it was more ritualistic in the sense of that they had to do
absolutely.
these things to keep things going.
It was done by a man. That it's a ritualistic thing that he did. It's not supernatural forces. He did this to them children.
Yeah.
Um if you are gonna if you were to review that, that is far too extreme for this movie. The
Yeah, you don't
pace
see nothing like that throughout the whole
no
thing. So it would be very out of place, I think, very
so
jarring.
out. I think it would have taken you completely out of the movie. There would have been no scare factor in it whatsoever. It would have just been, what the fuck? Why have we never seen anything like this during? And by the time you get into you, what the fuck's out the way with Heather's been clunked over the head and the film's ended. So I like the. Oh God, it's my cat. I felt something on my toe. I like the idea of that they kept it at the same pace. The whole movie is, for all it has its peaks and its lows and its, it still stays on an even playing field.
Yeah. And I will give it its due. They use the word fuck 154 times in this movie.
I hate to think how many we do in an episode.
Well, I think we're somewhere in the Rage Against the Machine killing in the name of. So, we're
Dun, dun,
I think that's about
dun, dun.
70. So I think we're in about the 50 to 70 range. But yeah, the film for me, watching it back with today's eyes,
Yeah.
it made me feel queasy for the first time ever. I don't get queasy from handheld, right? But because it was the first of its kind, they
Mhm.
hadn't worked out the kinks on how to hold the cameras to a degree. The sound is all over the place. I know all of this is purposeful because you're
Mhm.
supposed to feel the
It's
way they're feeling.
atmospheric.
Yeah, you're supposed to feel the same as them holding the camera. You're watching it from their perspective, so you're supposed
Mhm.
to feel that way. It's the first time it's actually sort of viscerally made me feel queasy, like, but it's purely because of this. And uh, I feel like I understood it more because I did my research after the movie, not before it. So I let it play out, and I seemed to I took in more than I thought I would have done, and I watched it more. But I will say I found Heather so annoying in this movie for the first time. I knew she was always a bit annoying, but at my age, at 44, listening
Yeah.
to this woman scream her tits off,
Shut
shout,
up.
antagonize those boys to a point of where it was unnecessary all the way through the
Yeah.
film. And then I know why she was doing it, but yeah, I found
She got you feeling something anyway.
yeah, I mean, for purpose and intention, definitely this film would get a 9 out of 10 for me for
Yeah.
the sheer reactions and just first timery of everything. But with if you put it in front of me now and it was made yesterday, it would be a 2 out of 3 film. A 2 out of 10
Yeah.
for me because it's just so
Oh yeah.
it
I am in a fully agreement with you. Heather was annoying but relatable. That was the scary part. The I love the more shaky the better, which is ironic because I have some crazy sensory issues, especially when it comes down to movement on a screen. I can get sick. Like I can get no like feeling of feel sick. From watching Anthem on the computer playing Fortnite because it's too fast. And I go, whoa, motion sickness. Oh, can I do that? But when it comes to found footage, I am so immersed. I miss the shaky parts of it all. There was another one I watched with Andy years ago, of a couple in very similar circumstances too, but very different. Trekking couple out hiking and things just got tits up, but it was all handheld footage and it's there was no I don't see the shakiness. If it's there, I don't see it. But today I just felt wow, one that's short. Didn't realize how short the film actually was. Wish I knew more about the lore and obviously picked it up during the film because that would have made my possibly could have changed my viewing experience and especially for so many years not sat there and thought why is Mike in the corner. If I listened at the beginning, it clearly tells us. Yeah. Oh, Late Night with the Devil. That's what I did it with. I missed certain points out of Late Night with the Devil, which then totally fucked the end, like the story for us, because I didn't get it. Need to pay more attention. But that's me. I've closed my laptop. I'm done with the Blair Witch Project. I love doing it, and I'm shocked that it's taken this long for us to do. I'm sure I would have mentioned it at some point.
yeah.
But yeah, Blair Witch, done and dusted. Next week, though. Next week.
Before
Oh
we
my God. Oh my God. I totally forgot. And I said to myself, I wasn't going to do it because I nearly did it last week. Have you done it?
I have done it,
Oh my God.
and this
Tell
took me 7 minutes.
tell the masses what you have done.
It's my tedious link. Um,
Da-da-da.
right, are you ready?
Mm.
Heather Donahue was in an episode of Always Sunny with
That's how you knew.
Rob McElhenney, aka Ronald McDonald, aka Mac.
Ronnie the rat.
Rob played Aldo in Lost with Doug Hutchinson, who played Horace. Doug is most famously known for playing Eugene Victor Toombs in X-Files. X-Files starred David Duchovny as Mulder. David also played Bruce in Don't Tell Mum the Babysitter's Dead, alongside Keith Coogan, who played Kenny, and Keith Coogan played Brad in Adventures in Babysitting. Thank you. Good night.
Well
I
done.
honestly, I was surprised. I surprised myself how quickly I got this one. And it was just the minute I saw she was in Always Sunny, I was like, Rob, 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 where do I go from Rob? And then I was looking at all the people in Always Sunny that's done the cameos and got overwhelmed because there's so many
There's a
people.
lot.
And
There's
I
a
was like,
lot.
oh, hang on a minute. Rob was in Lost. Who was in Lost? Oh, yeah, Toombs was in Lost. Then David Duchovny was in that. And it was just like my mental Rolodex went,
Just started going and going.
and
Do
it was
you work forward or backwards?
both. I
Okay.
start off with the movie with one of the people in the movie, and I
Uh-huh.
work it halfway, then I stop, and then I go back to this movie, Adventures in Babysitting, and I work this way, and then I see if there's anybody that crosses. So, but this was the quickest I've done.
Wow.
This was the quickest, which is so surprising considering Blair Witch Project and Adventures in Babysitting.
Completely opposite ends of the spectrum.
But as soon as I saw
Wow.
it just went bing bong, bing. My brain was just like, I turned into Rain Man, put it that way. Yeah, if I'm
um
Dustin Hoffman counting cards, it's me trying to work things back. Adventures in Babysitting. It's like,
what?
yeah. I know
um
it was Sam. Sam
it
told
was
me.
Sam told you.
Sam is my guide.
Oh my God. Don't tell people that. They'll be thinking, they'll be like, what are them two getting up to?
I'll get sectioned probably at this rate. So
But it was Sam.
Sam told me.
Um, I'm impressed. I really am. And I did say to myself, do not forget. And I nearly went and forgot, and I apologize because I do love them. I think it's more because my brain could not comprehend what you do that impresses me the most because
It's
I can't do that.
I love it. It's like giving me a new purpose. Like it's so stupid because there's no reason behind me choosing Adventures in Babysitting other than it's just one of those films that I've loved since I was a kid. So, but to make it like the center of the universe and be able to bring everything back in like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon is insane.
I think it's fantastic. And the fact that you have to do it every week as well, and it's always going to be something new.
Yeah, and I will never be defeated. And I'm on
Never.
record saying now, if I ever fail to do it, there will be some sort of penalty. I will
Just
there'll be something.
always look at it this way. You did it for White Zombie.
In like five steps.
Exactly. So
Right.
if you can do it with White Zombie, which is from 1932, you can do it with anything. I'm impressed. I really am. I'll be even more impressed if you can do it next week.
I'll do it next week, don't you worry.
Actually, I think next week
Yeah.
might be a good one. You might get a couple out of that. You might get like a juicy one out of that. Because
What
next
are we
week,
doing? Yeah.
oh, we're introducing something new. So it almost like a little series that we're going to be doing throughout the year. It's not going to be something that we do all the time because it's not what we do. Um, but we are going to be looking at so excited cursed movies.
Yay! Boo. Woo.
Yay! Mm. Yes, cursed movies, and we are starting with what we would class as the, and I think I said the same phrase last week, granddaddy of them all, which is Poltergeist. To say we are excited about this one is a understatement.
Yes, I was brought up for the first until I was 10, told that I looked like Carol Ann.
I totally get that.
Yes.
Are
Just
you Heather or
very,
Rock
very blonde hair.
with a
I had a
fringe?
thicker fringe than
Yeah.
this. And I was little tiny like Heather Rourke. So
The conspiracy theories I have read about her recently blows my fucking mind. That poor girl, let her rest. But hey, we'll get into that. So, there's so much. We're not just covering. It's everything. It's everything to do with why this movie is classed as a cursed movie. It's gonna
yeah.
get dark.
So they won't be like film facts like we're normally bringing you. These will be the cursed conspiracies,
Oh yeah.
cursed rumors. It's going to be that side of it rather than this movie took $3,000 at the box office. No, I'm not going to be doing that kind of stuff unless it's relevant to the cursed
Yeah.
rumor.
It's gonna get dark. it's going to get grim. We're going to cover at least one subject in there that is going to potentially have a trigger warning on it, and I will give it once and once only, because this fucking story needs to be told, and it needs to be told right. She deserves that much. But that's all I'm going to say on the matter until next week. Oh, I am. I'm very excited for this one. I think this is the one I've really been looking forward to, because we've been organized and we've actually known what we're going to do in advance. So yes, this has been Blair Witch Project. Next week is Cursed Movies. We are on the Nerdy Up North YouTube channel on a Monday. Our episode hits 8 o'clock on a Monday morning. If you hit the notification bell, you will be notified when that episode has dropped. Our audio goes out on a Monday afternoon, so not only do you get the video, you get the audio all on the same day. The links for Bleeding Marvelous, Monsters Up North, Nerdy Up North, and I'm really interested to see your nails. Where are they, Dan?
They're down there.
Oh,
Down there.
look at you, red and a bit of black.
They're down there. It's
Nice.
called Blood Moon.
I like it. Dan's got new nails. Audio listeners won't be able to see. I don't know if audio listeners ever actually know that Dan does show off her nails every time she does wears the links.
Bit with Dolly Parton.
Oh, bless Dolly Parton.
Oh, poor Dolly Parton.
Oh, it's honestly, this year's topping out to be a sad year. Sad year. But what else? That's it. Did I do it?
You did it.
Did it. Well, hey, if there's nothing else left to say goodbye, Dan.
Goodbye, Vienna sausage. Goodbye.
Stay spooky, everyone.